Today.
Okay, there we go. It should be going through
The
now.
harmony is just hitting it.
I still can't believe I found this shit for free.
No, you snap the entire way.
There we go.
All right. We got the instrumental. I was like, what's going on there? Just had to reset everything. Okay, cool. Let me get this out of the way. Hey, everybody. We're going to be starting the show in about 5 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever. We're going to be doing some Reddit therapy. So, as always, if you want to comment below the video and get at us, we'd love it. One moment. I'm just connecting the live or the social.
There it is.
What?
This is the first one.
You guys can go ahead and take it away whenever you're ready.
Hello. Welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent. Ding.
Dang you! Fuck you.
What?
No, sorry, not fuck you. Sorry, that would deem. I don't know.
We're not monetized yet. We still got 100 followers. We should celebrate when we get past 1,000.
What do we do?
I don't know.
What's like a? We'll have to think about that.
Try not to kill ourselves until we get there.
Don't
then
do
we'll,
it.
then we'll
Live show.
decide.
Cheers to that.
A live show.
Cheers. A live show sounds great. I would love a live show. Could we do it here upstairs?
Yeah, we could do it upstairs.
That would be cute.
We can get some booze. We can decorate it. All kinds of stuff.
Oh
It'd be fun.
my gosh.
That'd be very fun. That'd be very.
That would be
very fun.
really fun. Have some food. Have some booze. Have some.
Reese's Pieces.
I feel like Rachel's very close compared to me. Oh, there you go. I was like, you keep moving out of frame.
Sorry. Yeah.
He asked you ahead of time. Is this where you're saying?
But you know it's like a soft yes. I'm gonna move around. Okay.
Absolutely moved.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, guys.
Scoot whatever way.
Oh, I didn't.
Other way. Other way. Other way. Other way. Okay.
You
Nope.
move
That
or
was
I'll
the
move
correct
it.
way. There you go. Nope. That's perfect.
Okay, there.
That's perfect.
Oh, I can see you better too.
Oh my God.
I'll subtly back her up later too.
I've been
I had a. Never mind.
I'm feeling like unprepared for these Reddits because I've been like leaking all day, like just like tears on and off the entire day. And some of these Reddits I feel like are going to piss me off. So
Let's take it there. Do you want to take it there or no? I should ask.
I'm going to take it there. Yeah. I was telling Rachel earlier, like just halfway through my work day, I literally felt just like my whole body, like I was just like keeling over, like something's wrong in terms of just anxiety. And then I went home to try to like decompress. And I got a call from my leasing office that our neighbors below us called them to
got a
complain because they haven't been sleeping at night because there's a cord from our light that's hitting their window. And I don't know why that set me off. It set me off though. I was just laying there aggravated.
Because you know it's not true.
You haven't been sleeping at night?
Because you know it's not true.
And you couldn't just come knock on the door and be like, yo.
You're a fucking snitch. You're a tattletale and a snitch. Yep.
Yeah, call the leasing
whiner.
office.
Or ignore it.
I'm not sleeping at night. It's crazy. You're a
what?
martyr. And then you're saying it's hanging onto your balcony. Don't you just throw it up? If it's a little cord hanging from my light, just boop.
If you're
type
that
of
person,
right?
do you think you've ever done like a little? I don't think I've ever.
I've never Karen'd it like that. No.
I've never Karen'd it like that.
No.
Gabe?
No, fuck no. No, I
He
don't
was
do that.
quiet.
They were like too afraid to come knock on the door.
They're white people, right?
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's infuriating because you're like, it just feeds into all the things. Like, were you scared of like that? What was the thing? What could have possibly gone wrong?
I don't know. I definitely thought that was going to be a valid complaint though. And then when I heard that, I was like,
No, that's something that makes me want to go smoke a cigarette.
you're sick. You don't even smoke cigarettes.
No, I know. I need a square. That's my favorite thing
A
to say.
heater. That's why I
need
love when they call it a heater.
Wait, who says that?
People on the East Coast call them heaters.
I've never a heater.
Have either of you ever had a like credible renter complaint? Like, have you ever been a bad neighbor?
Yes.
Oh, really?
I have for sure.
That was unanimous.
Yeah, like I've definitely.
I smoke out the apartment. What the fuck? I know they hate that end of the hall hates me.
I had a neighbor one time come down and say I was. Just for the sake of story and time, this is inaccurate, but basically I was dog sitting and they came down, this guy came down and was like, your dog is like ruining my day because of how much it was barking. And I had lived with him for a year. Like he's never complained once, like never anything. He's super nice. Like if he saw me in the back doing yard work, he'd come help me do the yard work. Like he wasn't an asshole and I wasn't there. like I think the dog was just reacting like to every little sound and barking, and I brought him up some lavender because he was like a hippie. So I brought him up some dried lavender and was like, "Sorry, I hope this helps you relax," and like sent the dog packing.
That's really nice of you.
But like, if he was somebody I didn't know, I'd be like, "Fuck you."
No, fuck you.
But like,
You had relationships.
people prove them. Like, I don't know. Like when you just know
Yeah.
when you know, like you're not a Karen. Like that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
And then he ended up dying like a couple months later. Apparently, he had like a disease he had been fighting that whole time. So I'm like, oh, you probably really were like struggling
Took a lot for him.
with your autoimmune disease.
Can't sleep.
Can't.
Yeah. No,
What about you? Oh yeah, you smoke at your apartment. That's what you said.
I smoke at my apartment, which
Yeah.
is definitely. I mean, I think the people next to me also smoke actually.
Oh.
Because I come home sometimes and it smells like, and I was like, I haven't been here all day. But I'm trying to think.
You pay over $3,000 a month. I think you can smoke at your apartment if you
I
want
think
to.
that's kind of what my building is thinking too, because I've
Yeah.
had maintenance in there and they don't. Nothing.
All right, let's read this Reddit. This is
Okay.
gonna piss Gabe off. I'm really excited. Go.
I love pissing Gabe off. Gets me hard. My ex and his girlfriend left our daughter unattended at the movie theater. What should I do or say? Oh, I'm pissed already. Hi, everyone.
Wait, hold on. When I first read this, because I haven't read through it, but I just skimmed it, I was like, watch the kid be like 13, and then I think they're
Yeah.
like 6. I'm like, no, you got them fucked.
No, you got them fucked up.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Advice needed. This is from Two Hot Takes. Hi, everyone. I need advice on how to approach this situation. I, 29-year-old female, and my ex, 31-year-old male, have been separated for almost 3 years and divorced for almost 1 year. We share a beautiful 6-year-old daughter. Our relationship did not end in the best terms. Therefore, our co-parenting relationship has been somewhat rocky. Who cheated? There are times when things are really good and we are able to get along and do things together for our daughter. Then there are times when we just can't stand each other and everything becomes an argument. Well, as of recently, I can honestly say things have been going pretty good. We both agreed to have better communication and work together to make sure our daughter is okay. She is currently in therapy for a couple of reasons, and with the help of her therapist, we decided...
She's currently in therapy because we don't get along and traumatized her.
literally for a couple of reasons at 6 years old.
And a couple of reasons are mom and dad.
A couple of reasons are her home life.
Her parents, a couple.
I have a story. Yeah,
Mom, dad,
and the environment,
dad's girlfriend, mom's boyfriend.
and
couple
all
of
the arguments,
reasons.
and that nobody's thinking about her. We decided to try our best and have a better co-parenting relationship. Thanks to the therapist.
I bet she did sit y'all asses down and be like, your relationship is ruining your daughter. Please pull it together.
At 6 years old, like,
At
get it together.
6 years old.
Insane. Imagine being on the earth for 6 years and your parents already ruining your life.
Yeah, I can
meant,
I
you
can
can't
relate.
imagine, yeah.
I can relate.
I think they were, but I didn't know it. Fast forward to today. This week is my week with our daughter, so I picked her up from school. I asked her about her day at school and how her weekend was. She mentioned she went to go see the new Moana movie with her dad, his girlfriend, and their best friend's daughter, who is, if not the same age, then approximately around the same age as our daughter. She continues to tell me about the movie and how much she liked it. Then she says, you know, daddy and girlfriend's name left, best friend's daughter, and I alone at the movie theater twice.
Not the laugh.
Insert crazy laugh. I asked her to please explain what she meant by alone, and she continued to say, they left us sitting down and they went to go get the drinks and snacks, and they came back but had to go get the glasses, so they left again. Oh, they went to fuck or smoke. They didn't want us in there. I was shocked. She then proceeded to say that after the movie, they went back to the girlfriend's place so the girls could play, but while they were there, her dad and his girlfriend left to go drop off something and left them alone once again. Now, that's
Oh, they do
nuts.
drugs together.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not sex. They do drugs together.
Yeah, they're doing drugs together.
Are the drugs like weed and you're just like a greedy, shitty parent, or are they hard drugs? Guess now. You know what I
Hard
mean?
drugs.
Okay, yeah, because
Because you're leaving multiple times during, like, you're high for a minute when you're, like, smoking weed. Like, you want to sit and watch fucking
yes, tell
Moana.
us, expert.
Since I've never done anything else. I'm over here like, what? You don't do that with weed? Keep going. No, what do you think they're doing?
I think that they are probably they're either like doing hard drugs or like they both like hate parenting and they're just
Need
like,
a break.
Need a break. But you know, I think like also it's hard to tell even with these things like how long were they gone for the snacks and the glasses, but I'm gonna guess they were gone for a while. For the kid to be noticing and saying stuff?
Oh, for
no,
sure.
this is dangerous territory.
Why?
This really, all I'm hearing with this.
Wait,
like,
hold on.
Sorry.
No, I want to finish and then go.
Okay.
Okay, she mentioned the girlfriend told them they would be right back and to not open the door for strangers. I was speechless.
Oh, because they left them home alone. Oh, I forgot about that. That's worse than the movies. Actually, it's not. The movies are more unsafe.
It is because you left them in public.
Yeah, because imagine like an older guy seeing 2 6-year-olds alone, and he's like, "This is my opportunity."
Imagine seeing like parents, like you're watching for parents leaving their kids alone. That's insane. That's insane. I decided to not confront him right away because I knew I would only react with anger. I called my best friend and she was incredibly upset as well. Like, how could they leave 2 little girls in a movie theater filled with strangers and many emergency exits, literally? I really don't know how to bring this up without causing a fight. What should I do? Update. I sent him a text yesterday stating what my daughter had mentioned. I also stated that I could see how they thought this was best at the moment, but I asked if they could please come up with better solutions so that it could possibly not happen in future outings. That I hoped he understood my concerns and that we could discuss this for his further. His response, we'll discuss this at a later time.
Druggy.
Yeah.
So, well, Gabe, what were you going to say before I go? Because I'm actually very curious. You're the only one with children, and you're co-parenting.
So all that I was going to say is that if there's something that sort of mesmerizes me about parenting sometimes, it's like, and my kids are very attached to me, I guess, but it's like they are so attached to you that sometimes I'm in awe of how short of a time I can be away, and they are like, "Where have you been?" And it's like I went upstairs to grab the remote, or just minor stuff to where if you're in a bad relationship and if your co-parent is like digging at all for stuff like this, like my kids have absolutely said stuff to my ex, and they've said stuff to me about my ex that is alarming, and that I have to calm myself down and go, it's probably not this. And then talk to my ex, and it really usually is not. I have left the house and gone to the supermarket, like not supermarket, the corner store that is literally half a block away, and it's like it didn't go over well, and I didn't feel right about it the whole time. I was gone for maybe 8 minutes, but it's like
it's still
there's something about leaving your kids exposed. Yeah, that's
especially when they're little. They can't they don't know how to work I don't know, something about like not being able to work a phone, or they don't have a phone. They're just like,
well, the thing, as soon as you said
not you even, but just
when they told them not to answer the door, that's super alarming, because you don't say that unless you're going to be gone.
I feel like my parents would tell me to not answer the door even if they were stepping out.
Well, you had a sibling. I also there's this thing too where it's like I feel like when there's 2 kids together for whatever reason, parents feel less concerned.
Oh yes.
So it's like, the 2 of them are sitting there. I'll just run. The reason why I said drugs or something sketchy is that or you just hate parenting is there's absolutely no reason one of you couldn't have stayed in all of those scenarios.
That's what everybody's saying. But you're like, why did
there's not a reason one of you could have stayed. I think the hard thing about co-parenting, and this came up, I was just a guest on this podcast called Co-Parenting Confessions with Alicia Price, and I think she has a 2nd season coming out in the near future.
Very soon, yep.
Yep. And so
it was a great episode.
It was really good.
Tune in.
It was really good. Look at me working on my marketing. And so then I did a really good one, and one of the themes that kept coming up repeatedly, we didn't really touch on this directly, but it was in the theme of the entire conversation, which is trust between co-parents. So this is one of those things that, to be honest, as a parent, is a judgment call. And if the other parent who you're co-parenting with makes a different judgment call, there's not really much you can do about it. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't abusive. That's kind of the line. That's the thing that really sucks about co-parenting, is that there's this line of we are 2 separate parents and individuals, and it'd be great if we aligned on everything, but I don't have to.
And it's kind of the reason why we're living separately so that I can parent the way I want to parent.
Right, because we couldn't parent together in the same household. Right. So true. So what I don't like is the we'll discuss this at a later time, because I feel like it's very dismissive.
A little bit threatening. I would feel nervous. Not threatening, but
I don't think it was threatening. I just felt it was dismissive, because I feel like when is the undisclosed later time? And maybe he's just tired of dealing with her. And also with co-parenting dynamics, who knows the story he tells himself? He might be she's just extra mad because the girlfriend was there. Right. Who knows? I don't know their shit. Yeah.
And if there's one thing it's weird, because I'm really not trying to defend these guys, because I think it's shady as fuck. Everything, I'm agreeing with you on one hand.
Yeah.
But 100% actually. And if I had to go one way, I would go what you're saying. But it's also it is so easy in parenting to look like a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
There was one time at the hardware store, I pulled up. It's a hardware store I go to all the time, the neighborhood one. It's its own parking lot. My kids were three and one. They're buckled into the car seats. It's super cold. I'm just going in to get a knife that they have at the counter. Hold on. No. Like, I parked right by the door. I can see it. Like, I was never further than 40 feet from the car.
What white
And
grandma
with
came
an
up and
eye
saw
line
your
the whole
kids
time.
in the car and was like, get these babies out?
This guy, I met on my way out with
Is
my
this
bag.
the one on Hennepin? Or is
No, it's on Lake Street.
Okay.
It's the Fratelloni's on Lake Street.
Oh,
Shout
I was
out.
like, is it the Fratelloni's on Hennepin? No.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
No, it's not. It's like not even a super high traffic one, right?
Yeah,
Like, I know all the staff there. It just really didn't feel unsafe to me, you know, and I'm very neurotic. But this dude, like, lit into me. And it's like, I wanted to punch him in the fucking face. I was just so incensed.
Mind your business. I get it.
But it's also, he's not.
He didn't know.
You're always right if you're arguing for the safety of kids. So it's like you're always going to look like an asshole in those arguments. It's just hard to win.
You should be okay with looking like a bad parent for
this
5
is also what I
minutes.
mean about like the co-parenting relationship being kind of the backbone of this, because like her response is like, I'm angry. They clearly don't have a relationship where she could approach him and be like, is this true? Mm-hmm. Like, she assumed it was true off bat. She assumed it was malintent off bat, and she was like, how do I navigate this? And she might not be wrong. She knows him better than us. But I think the thought I have immediately is like, if he did do this intentionally and on purpose, like, there's not much you can do about it. Like, even if he left the whole movie, there's really not much you can do about it as a parent except have a conversation. Like, that is part of, like, co-parenting, is that, like, that other person does have equal say.
Somebody in the comments had said that they had a similar situation happen with their kid where their ex kept on leaving their kid in the car, and they told their daughter to dial, like, 911 if she's ever alone and feels scared. And she did, and the cops came. I don't, like, what do you think about that? Like, is that, like, a thing to tell your kid if they, like...
I have mixed feelings about that, but I think, I mean, I would err on the side of, like, yes, that was correct to tell your kid if you're afraid. You should call 911. Like, that's not wrong, but I could see how the co-parent could see that as malicious or vindictive. And that's kind of, like, I could see both of, like...
This woman wrote back and said, I'll talk to my daughter about that.
Because also, like... You could say, call me.
Yeah.
Like, why the police? Like, that, like, seems indicative of, like, a bad co-parenting relationship.
Like, yeah.
Because, like, I don't know.
Why can't you call your mom if you need your mom?
Yeah. My mom, it's funny because I saw my mom over Thanksgiving, and she was saying something to me about her co-parenting with my brother's dad, and they have a good co-parenting relationship. Like, I don't have anything negative to say about it. But I had said to her, because she was kind of leaning really hard on being right. And I was like, that's basically, that's subjective. Like, you can't, like, you being right isn't, like, enough for you to, like, dismiss his feelings and opinion.
Ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow.
She was like, ugh. You know, but it's true. Like, and I think this is a downfall that a lot of women have, because a lot of women run the day-to-day logistics of the house. Yeah. And so they're like, I know more than this about you, and I'm right on this. Like, and by right, I mean this was what's best for our children, and this is what's easiest for us as a family, those two together. And
it doesn't always matter.
It's not that it doesn't matter, but it's contradictory to say I'm right and I know better and I want you to step up as a father. Like, those two things don't go together. Like, you have to let them have equal opinion, equal parenting, equal this. And I'm not saying my mom does that. I'm just saying, like, when I see couples, I see these moms who are so angry that the dad won't step up, but then when the dad steps up and he says something different than what the mom wants, she loses her mind.
And berates him and says you're doing it wrong, and then is mad when he never steps up.
Yes, and I'm like, oh, no, what you want is you want to be able to assign him tasks and have them do them well. You want to be his manager. You want to tell him, this is what you do, and this is how you do it, and then you want him to follow through. You don't actually want him to be an equal and make decisions with you. That's not what you want.
I have a friend who's in kind of a dynamic like that, where I think her partner is unhelpful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And also, she's very particular and wants things done a certain way. And I have to kind of tell her, like, he didn't really do anything wrong this time. It just might have been a little bit sloppier or a little bit slower.
Than you think.
Than you might have, right, than you think, or how your family done it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's, you just have to let him do it.
It's
also a part of, like, your kid learning that there's multiple different ways to do things, too.
Except the issue is, they like it. Those women love it.
Yeah.
It's actually like their entertainment.
Well, I think for a lot of women,
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that.
I don't think it's entertainment.
Yeah.
I think that they feel,
It's where they get their power back in a lot of ways.
yes, they feel empowered by being able to make their parenting decisions. I don't feel like it's entertainment because I feel like they're literally angry when it happens.
They said that they're exhausted from making all the decisions, and I don't want to have to do all this. And I'm like, well, then stop making all the decisions.
I think it's like it's like mansplaining for women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if I started building a closet, I'd probably step in there and I wouldn't be able to help myself and say something.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is too, and I have to do this in family therapy all the time. Like I go into a family system and I see like, let's say I see 10 things that I want to correct in that family system. Part of what I'm going to pick to talk about is something that I think is like a change that's not going to change the whole family dynamic. Like going in thinking you're going to shift the whole family dynamic, or asking dad to do something that doesn't align with his character, or asking mom to do something that doesn't align with her character. Like I'm only asking that if those things are creating safety issues. Otherwise, it's unrealistic.
You have to live within their family kind of bounds and stuff.
Yes, you kind of have to live in within what's normal for that family and kind of roll with it. And I think what a lot of moms miss.
I love that you're mentioning this because I feel like so many therapists ask their clients to do things that like aren't realistic. Not in terms that they can't do it, but just like
it doesn't even mesh with their family values.
Yes.
Their family doesn't even believe that's important. You as a therapist think that's important, but the
Exactly.
family doesn't think that's important.
Yes. Keep going.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Something, no, that what you said was good. It was something about family, but just this notion of like these women really,
They're attached to this idea of rightness.
not even just rightness, but this feeling of like you as a dad are causing harm to our kids. And to that I say, like, you picked that dad. And so you have to work within the confines of who that dad is. You picked that dad. So you have to work within. So if it's like a dad who's like,
That's heavy to say.
it's like if it's a dad who like has ADHD and like isn't good at remembering to do small tasks, or like putting the shoes away, or like, you know, bringing back the right socks, like
Stop talking about me.
talking about me.
you have to like know that like that's who you picked. Like there's this like something that comes up in my relationship is like at times my partner wants me to have this like, well, I'll do it then. And I'm like, I have a really hard time imagining that, like, as our family grows, you're just going to kick into gear.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of need to see the gear. And it's not in a testing way. Like, we're locked in. But, like, I'm not going to pretend like this isn't a conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
Like, this is a conversation we need to have. I'm not going to kick the can and have the conversation when we have a 3-year-old and you're
so
screaming
many
at
people do
them.
that.
Like, no, we need to talk about this now.
We don't have kids now. Well, no, but how you're showing up and helping matters. You're not going to all of a sudden change how you help.
Right. Like,
Wow.
I'm not waiting until we have more stress to bring it up. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, I'm not going to do that.
I
You are
think that's why a lot of couples end up breaking up during like that infant toddler phase, is because they think that like
Yes.
they just really think it's going to be the same, or that their partner is going to click into gear because they're going to click into gear.
Like, we talk about things like now. So he's a lot cleaner than I am. And by this, I mean, like, we both, I would say I pick up the house more than him. He cares about germs more than me. Those are actually very different things.
very different things.
And I think it's because I grew up with a white mom, so I have a lot of freeness about me, about like germs and like no shoes and no socks and like
I relate to that.
toes in the grass, or like take a nap when you're dirty, or like you don't always have to wash your hands before you eat. Like, I'm very free. And he said this to me, like, he's like, I like that you're like a hippy dippy black girl, but I also like I struggle. I'm like, fair.
It's also just regular.
It's but not for black folks.
It's not. They're very like cleanliness is of the utmost importance.
And like, I literally say things like, I'm joking, but I'm not. When I'm like,
gotta
yo,
let that.
like, my kid's gonna take a nap dirty. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna not let my kid take a nap because they have to be washed first. Like,
we're
if they
not-
fucking pass out after the park and they're
I'm not
dirty
waking them up
down,
to wash them.
no.
I'm not doing like another fight just off of like principle, bro.
And it's like, I literally think a lot of parents haven't even talked about or
Yes.
thought about those things until they have a kid. And I feel like we're like 3 years out, and I'm like still kind of being like,
Y'all are closer than that.
okay, stalker. But like, you know what I mean? Gabe, you were going to say something at some point.
You know, I was just gonna say, I think it's totally like smart and rational of you to sort of ask that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I gotta say, on the other hand, like that's 100% how like I changed as a person when I had kids. Now I'm not some radical change. I'm still like rough
Yeah.
around the edges and all that. It's
Yeah.
not like if you asked her, she'd say, "Whoa, he's just a super dad now."
Yeah.
But from where I was,
Yeah.
It's not. It's fucking miles beyond, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like people soften and become more attentive, but they are who they are. So like
Your values and beliefs probably might stay the same.
right. And so like when I was bringing up like the organizational piece, like that doesn't change when you have kids. That's a skill you have or you don't have. If you're
See, I disagree.
Oh, really?
Because I've had to like add those. Now I don't do it everywhere, and I can be messy and all that. But I am so aware of modeling for my kids that like before they come home, I clean that fucking house and shit. Like I just do a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
I wouldn't do because of that. I guess I don't know.
I also feel like you being a co-parent is different than being in a marriage because I think it
Yes.
requires you to show up differently.
I
True.
agree.
So like do you think you clean more now as a single person than when you were in your marriage?
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about is like the interpersonal dynamics of like who carries the workload and in
labor,
what
yeah.
ways. I think the kind of labor you carry, I think men step up in some ways. But I think if you're the person who mostly cleans the house, he's not going to become a person who cleans the house because you guys had kids. He might help.
And a lot of men, I'm don't
That's
mean to
my
gender it.
opinion
Yeah.
of what I've seen in like family systems. But the thing that I will say is that women will be mad, like kicking and screaming about doing all the labor, but then
Don't want to give up any of it.
But no. Yeah, one, don't want to give up the labor, but two, that is their justification to not have to
Yep.
respect their partner as an equal.
Yep.
In parenting.
Yep. I totally agree.
And they're like, well, I respect you as an equal in all the other areas, so it doesn't matter that I don't respect you as a parent.
Yep.
It really does. It makes men feel disempowered and like, what's the point of checking in?
And small.
And not in terms of connecting with kids, definitely with connecting with kids, but checking in terms of decision making. Why do I have to make all these decisions or try to participate in these decisions? If you don't care what I have to say, you don't want to listen.
And you're going to berate me for whatever I do. Like
Yeah.
if I deviate at all from your
Yeah.
plan or from whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rigidity in how
But
we hold the reins.
I agree that parenting can bring out the best in people because, like, for instance, my uncle, he's like 50 and he has a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And like growing, like my whole understanding and knowing of him was that he was very him-centric. He traveled all the time. He did exactly what he wanted. He put his business first. And I would say like the biggest shift I saw was when they had a kid, like actually caring about being home for dinner, actually being selective about like what trips he went on and what he did, because really valuing spending that one-on-one time and parenting time multiple days a week with your kid after work and after dinner. Like I think the empathy grows a ton. I think you're more empathetic. I think you're less selfish than you've ever been. But I think a lot of that translates to your kids and not your wife.
Ooh.
And I'm not talking about my uncle because he's great. Their family's
Yeah.
great. But like when I think of men, I think it translates to their kids, not their wife. Like they change a lot as fathers, but they don't change as husbands in the same way women hope and want.
So do you think, I think I already know your answer, but do you think that you can be a good dad and not a good partner at the same time?
No.
I
I don't think so, which is why I
Yep,
feel like
I agree
divorce when you guys are in a bad relationship is better than staying together.
I 100% agree.
There's something that there's never, I don't know. It's one of the most confusing things to be playing with your kids and like having this great time with your kids and having your co-parent walk upstairs and be mad because you're not cleaning or something like that. Like
Right.
there's some super confusing things like that. And I'll tell you another one that I think is, like I'm curious your guys' take on it, but one of the biggest misses of my marriage, for instance, was we got pregnant. As a man, you go, holy shit, I need money.
That's what every guy says.
We need as much money as possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in this period, like, she's not big and pregnant yet. Like, this is my thinking. Like,
Yeah.
she's 2 months in, 3 months, whatever. Like, so I'm
Yeah.
working like a dog. And I didn't find out till after we had the kid that I had abandoned her.
And you kind of did because it was emotional turmoil
Right.
for her. So this is this thing too that I talk to people about. And I used to do this actually. This week, or last week, my brother's dad did something that was upsetting to me. And like, I was annoyed. I was annoyed by it, right? And usually I wouldn't say anything because like it was uncertain whether or not he was going to carry out this plan that was going to piss me off. And I had like a light bulb moment, which is so like stupid and immature. But I was like, why don't I just like express how I feel instead of wait to see if the hole gets bigger?
LOL.
Like, why don't I just say how I feel instead of letting himself set himself up
Me to me.
for failure? And so I literally, and it was funny because I was like, I'm sending a voice memo because I want you to hear my tone because I'm like a dry texter. was like, I want you to hear. Yeah, everyone knows I'm a dry
you are.
texter. Everyone knows I'm a
Yes,
dry
you are.
texter.
Is she mad at me
There's
20
no
times
fun.
a day?
There's no fun texting with Javae.
Sometimes like today, Rachel told
Yeah.
me that she was like busy until right before we shot, and then I had to go to session, and I literally thought to myself, I was like, I'm gonna get like 6 texts from Rachel about random things because she's like spot checking,
Are you okay? Or do we need this? What is going on?
and they were literally like the most random shit. She was sending me like videos of her with her cat. I'm like,
Do you
this
see
spot
this?
check.
We're fine.
So I literally, and then it was funny because when he responded to my voice memo, he was like, you don't know how much I appreciate hearing your tone. Because yes, the text would be probably
Too much.
rough. And he was like, no, thanks for telling me. And then whatever I was mad about just didn't happen. And I'm like, it just made me think of that because of Gabe and his wife of like, instead of like spending your whole pregnancy resentful, girl, say something. It's like you wanted him to build it. You wanted to have a reason.
Say something.
Say something.
Meet my couple today.
Be like, I don't look that pregnant, but like my hormones are out of control. I feel more insecure than I've ever felt in my life. If God forbid you drop a tear, he might actually fucking be like, comforting.
Right.
And then Gabe could have shared like, well, the reason I'm working all the time is because I feel like I have to provide for us and our kid. And then that would have been a connecting moment because it would have been like, we both have the same goal, which is having this kid. We're just going about it different.
I go through this in couples therapy all the time where
Yeah.
people think that they don't have to say things. Or they don't have to like spell it out. And I'm like,
You're killing me. You're so right.
I'm like, you have to spell it out. And they're like, but they should. I mean, why would they know? Why would, like, maybe after a certain amount of time, you're supposed to like read your partner a little, like more or a little bit, but like,
But no.
that's like, it's the wrong expectation to set. Like,
I want my partner to assume, and I want them to
Right.
assume right. Okay.
I literally had my
Fairyland.
client today was like, I told my partner, they had like a little thing, they iced their partner out because they told their partner that they wanted more attention and then got an attitude. Because they're like, well, it wasn't because they had to say so, but because their partner then was like, well, what can I do? Like they were like, I wanna tend to you. I'm like, well, it's not the same.
Oh, I shouldn't have to tell you.
I shouldn't have to tell you. It takes away from you. Don't really want to do it. And I'm like, that's self-sabotaging.
I grew up in a household like that
yeah.
where nobody celebrated good things because
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do. And
Yeah.
then like if you
This is-
didn't
yeah.
figure it out on your own what you were supposed to do, then
doesn't
you got
count.
like reamed.
Yes.
We are
Exactly.
talking exclusively about white women, right?
No.
No.
Really? No.
No.
This crosses across all.
Oh,
Yeah, it tries to cross all because I
No.
think like if you think about black women and like their
And
family
I do.
We know. Sorry.
I think a lot of times in the black community, black women are positioned and able to make all the decisions. Like that's accepted.
Mm-hmm.
That like you as like this strong black mom, sometimes single mom,
You call the shots.
gets to call the shots. So like black women don't have to fight as hard to call the shots, I think, in some of those ways, unless they're religious. Because if you're religious, then the man is closest to God.
Yeah.
And then he gets to make the decisions, right? So I think non-religious black women have most of the say with the kids. I think there's this kind of unspoken thing in a lot of the black community where like moms know best about little kids.
It's very matriarchal.
I think the tension starts when the kids get into like middle school and up.
And start-
Especially if they're boys.
And start
Because then the
exerting
dad's like,
independence.
great, you had the younger years, but like I know what it means to be a black man. Like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
But I
That's
think
fair.
No.
No? Okay.
you don't think so?
For them to say, get out of my way.
Well, not get out of my way.
Not
but that
get out of my
they'd
way.
be more, relate to it more.
I can understand where they're coming from. I get the mindset. I get culturally why it's like a thing, but I don't think it's true.
I disagree.
Nobody can tell me that I don't understand my son. Like, he's
No,
me.
not that. No,
Okay.
not that. No, not that you don't understand your
But I don't
son more
understand my
as like a
daughter.
male or anything. But I mean, like
a
coming
princess.
in. But I mean, like coming in at a certain point and being like, now I'm taking over.
It's not a now I'm taking over.
Okay.
It's like dads who are like
Because that's what I hear from
dads who are like weekend dads. So like yes, the mom is calling all the shots and doing like the hard lifting of parenting, but then I feel like as character development happens and identity development happens, dads try to step in when life events are going on.
Okay.
And I think moms are pissy. Like I've been doing
Yes.
all of the hard work. You don't get to come in on this life event and tell me how to do it.
I kind of agree with that.
I do agree with it. And
It's still pissy.
I'm just going to be honest. I think a lot of women with their sons lean towards empathy, and
Yes.
the world isn't empathetic. And
I agree.
sometimes the dad is stepping in and is like, we have to push this kid, punish this kid,
Agree.
parent this kid in a firmer way.
I agree.
And moms are totally anti
That's not your little man.
And I'm kind of like, I think the
have
black
a couple
dad
people in
knows
mind.
best about how the world's going to see his black son.
That's fair.
Does he know his black son better than mom? Not necessarily. But does he know more about being a black man in the world? Yes. And I
impact.
think it's the same thing with like men, period.
Yeah.
Kind of like, does Gabe know like the ins and outs of his son better? I can't speak to that. Like you and your ex-wife would probably fight over that, right? But like, does Gabe know where like he ended up on the trajectory of being like a boy who had
Yeah.
similar feelings and circumstances? Yes.
You can see
like, is he
yourself
going to
in
see the pitfalls more? Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and know how to interact with his peers
No,
at
that's
school,
fair.
like all that stuff.
Yeah.
That like for my daughter, I'm like truly, there's times I'm like, I don't really know what to say.
No, that's fair. And I do know moms, and I like know that there are a lot of
It's the babying shit. I feel like a lot of dads are jumping in on the babying. And I think a lot of dads go too hard. Like they do the like, I want to whoop his ass, which is also not okay.
or take away love or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
But like,
You don't need to do that.
no.
There's a middle ground. So tell me, because I think I was thinking about it differently. Like if my partner or a partner like was saying, even in therapy, like, you know, I kind of took a back seat to when they were infant, toddler, I was whatever, and now, you know, they're school age, and I'm gonna really be involved. It's not even that the involvement is bothersome, but it's that all of a sudden there's like this expectation that like it's more important. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that.
I don't think there's any. So here, I think we're talking about two different things, even
Okay.
though we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
So one thing is the parental relationship between the kid and the dad.
Sure.
I think there's only benefits that come from the dad being more involved for the dad and the kid if the dad stays involved.
Fair. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But then I think the second part is the resentment between the primary parent and the dad, and I think those are actually two different things. Like
Yes.
the primary parent, like you as the mom, get to be fucking pissed about all of it and frustrated and feel like you have to earn trust. You have to prove that you're stable. Like you have to do those things.
Yeah.
Like you can't just come in and be like, now I'm ready. Like that's bullshit. You get to be mad. You get to be resentful. You get to judge them and feel all the ways you feel about them. That has nothing to do with the fact that your child is benefiting from their dad being around. You know what I mean? Like
you
they're
need to-
two
and you need to
separate
allow
things.
that
And I
relationship.
think when you're in a romantic relationship, that's when those things clash and now we're fighting. Because we're
Yes.
together and I've been carrying the brunt of the load for years and now you want to step in. Well, now me being resentful matters in a different way because you're my man.
If you when you work with parents, and if you were like and maybe like the kids aren't in the room or there's like some sort of coaching going on, what is something I feel like I've asked you this before, but I just like this. What do you really want parents to know about co-parenting, whether they're together or not together? Do you feel like there's like a golden rule or anything that you would tell people?
I would say that this isn't a golden rule or anything, but this came up on Alicia's podcast too. I think that your kids are picking up on how well or bad your co-parenting relationship is, even if you don't talk about it. They know.
Thank you. Say
They know.
For them in the back.
They know it.
Say why people miss that.
You could never ever. I don't care if you've never said one bad thing about dad. If you hate their dad, they can feel it in their bones.
And they won't forget it.
They won't forget.
They won't forget it.
You can't hide a bad co-parenting relationship with niceties in front of the kids.
And kids will pick up on how you're coping with the other parent.
Well,
They'll
and
start to
bad
do that.
co-parenting means that the two homes are very different. So even if you never talk shit about that parent, they know that you judge that parent's parenting because you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't let them have their cell phone till midnight. So you know what I mean? So they know you would look down on dad for having the cell phone till midnight. They know that. You don't let them watch TV. You don't let them eat junk food. So they know you feel like
way when
that
dad
shit's
does it.
trash, even if you don't say it. There is no hiding that you have a bad co-parenting relationship or that you guys don't agree on a lot of core values. You can never hide it.
Well, why the fuck you divorced if you're if you're in alignment with all that stuff?
But I think
Exactly.
they're not- right.
You know?
I think like I remember
True.
my parents got divorced when I was 7, and they're very different. Have very different rules about what went on in their houses. It was like opposite, probably for every single rule, probably. And I remember being with my dad, and like we would be with him for like a couple days. Like we weren't even going to go right back to my mom's house.
Yeah.
And like I would be like remembering her rules in my head.
Yeah, because you were loyal to your mom.
Exactly. And he's like, well, you can just enjoy this. And I'm like, I would have to lie. And I don't think parents realize all the different
No.
rules that their kids are running through, like the gymnastics of, well, I have to go back over to that house, or I have to go
And lie.
and lie.
She's
Exactly.
going to ask me.
Exactly.
Do you guys think that the whole like? To me, there's a superiority that women just have built in
Yeah.
with parenting because you carried the child, right?
Yeah, you grew them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like they're like I felt that big time. You know,
Yeah.
like you feel like you are. if you're fighting like counter punching versus punching, right? Like you're just always reacting to what the woman's expectations are, kind of, because it's more her kid at first in a weird way.
It's my baby.
It's your baby. And I think, so this is my honest opinion, I think for like the first 2 to 3 years, like the mom being like, that's my baby is normal.
Right.
And like not in like a dismissive way, but just in a like, they literally grew inside of me. And if you're breastfeeding, they have to be around me all the time. Like I like specifically the first 2 years, that's my baby is very normal.
Yeah.
If you don't peel out of that, it's weird.
Yeah.
Which it's all the more amazing that the child pushes away from you and rejects you by the time it's 5, because you had a 9-month head start feeding, fucking growing the kid, for Christ's sakes. What kind of monster are you? No, I'm joking. But it is like there's a weird, as a man, you are secondary to it, and you know it, and you should be, right?
Yeah.
Like you are living in service of that woman for those first couple of years, for sure.
Makes me feel more
The shift should happen though, where you guys are both equal. And what normally happens is they go to dad more than you, and it kind of balances out, and they bounce back and forth, and that's normal because dad signifies some independence, I think.
Yep.
Right, and I guess
I like that.
it's
I've
like there's some
never thought about that
internal
before.
momentum.
Yeah.
Say more about why dad, like I understand, but like why that might.
I think dad
more.
signifies some independence because I feel like it's hard to know, like there isn't a lot of separation between mom and kid for the first couple of years.
And I think like individuation.
Yeah, and I think it's like an individuation process. Specifically like when mom and dad aren't together, or if dad's very different from mom, I think it's like kind of your first experience of like someone else I trust equally but isn't mom.
Yeah.
Because they trust, I mean, you should trust your dad the same. It's not about a trust thing. It's about like a comfort, nurturing, grew inside of your womb. Literally, you're feeding me from your boobs thing.
I can go to my dad for the same amount of comfort that I could from my mom.
Which is new. And I think also,
and you have to allow them to have
this
that.
is very stereotypical, but I see dads allowing kids to be themselves more.
Yes.
I was just going to ask you guys if you see a lot of issues with the, like, fun dad is used as like a slur.
It is a slur.
Right. And it's like...
It is kind of, though.
And that's been hurled at... And it should be in certain ways, but it's usually misused.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think the fun dad taps into the resentment from the other co-parent.
yes.
Right? Like, you don't have to do the hard things. That's why the kids adore you. And I would still... And this is literally... I had a mom who, like, didn't give a fuck. My dad wasn't paying child support. Like, all of those things. Never once talked bad about my dad. I don't actually even ever felt like my mom didn't like my dad. I never felt that. Like, truly. And she didn't dislike him when I was, like, older. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think the fun dad slur gets hurled because it's, like, you drop in and do fun things, but you don't do the hard parenting. And there is a lot of dads who do that. But I also think I would rather have a dad who dropped in and did fun things than a dad who didn't drop in at all.
Ain't that the one?
Like you as a mom, there's something like where moms almost feel like, oh, I'm resentful that this dad drops in randomly because he's like killing my like single parent narrative. But I am a single parent because I feel like you don't do hard things like sign them up for school and argue with them in the morning and get them ready and go to conferences, which I'm not saying you do that, Gabe, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I do all those things. So,
of course.
Except the conferences. I don't do that.
Why? You have to go to conferences.
No, of course. No. And I talk to their teachers on a day-to-day basis more than anyone, or like the most, right?
That's
like,
so interesting. Do you not go just to not interact with your ex-wife, can I ask?
Well, no. Like, really what happens is that the conferences, so I'm not as good at checking the detail, because you get so many fucking emails every day from your kid's school that it's like they do start washing over you, right?
That's fair.
And I'm the ADD guy who's in my constant state of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And I might miss something for a day. So she'll respond to it right away, set up the conference. And it's like she just does it without...
Doesn't consult. Kind of.
Yeah, doesn't consult. And I don't push back at it. Like, it doesn't bother me because I do talk to their teachers personally.
Well, my intuition...
And I talk to my kids about school all the time.
My intuition that popped up that said you have to go is just like if either of your kids are ever getting in trouble, you have to go so you can get firsthand information from the teacher without your ex-wife being the one there getting it. Because I feel like it's not even a dig at her. It's just like a parenting thing of like, we probably see this different. So I need the firsthand of what's going on.
And I guess I get so involved in that stuff personally. Like if I hear something...
Yeah. You'll just ask the teacher
Tuesday,
when you drop them off.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
So it just feels kind of silly and...
it's repetitive.
Yeah, it just feels like a formal thing that's unnecessary. So I'm just kind of fine with it. But I take a ton of shit for not scheduling dental appointments, for not scheduling doctor's appointments.
Well, because it's bullshit that you don't.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I think there's this thing like about so like a lot of women feel like they are doing like all the unfun tasks. That's the fun dad slur. Like it's getting thrown at you like it's negative for the kids. It's not negative for the kids, it's negative for her. Right? So like
Yeah.
the slur is like I do all the unfun things that you don't feel like doing.
Does it make a difference that I tell her because she schedules it that she can schedule like I take them?
It's still
You bring them?
Yeah, like I say schedule it
Actually,
on my
yeah.
day.
That actually
You know what
feels
I mean?
like I feel like it's not as much. I feel like it's not equal, but it's closer to
Okay.
her scheduling and taking.
I guess because I'd rather schedule than take.
Yeah, it's not equal, but it's closer to because. So this is the thing with women is like
It feels like such a technicality to women. Like, to me, I'm like,
It's
I
the
have
mental-
more deep chats with them. I have more like,
it's the mental load of having to do the adulting tasks and remember to do them. It's not really about that. It's more like meaningful to the children as much as like neither of us want to do this. Who's going to do the unfun thing that gets no reward?
So this is an argument I used to have with her in the house. Is like, she'd go, why do I always have to make dinner? And I'd say, why do I always have to fight the home intruder and fucking give my life up
Gabe,
for
I
it?
would literally strangle you.
I'm just saying, but no.
Dinner 7 days a week. The home intruder is
Listen,
one off in 5 years. I
listen,
literally would cut
And
is
it
a
never
joke,
happened.
First of all,
cut your
first of all,
throat.
it is a joke, but it is like it is the thing is like I was whatever. Like I built.
So can
the
I be
house
honest?
we lived in.
Can I be honest?
Like yeah.
Okay, men do things that they say are providing and that they have no feelings about it, and then they hold it against you and you ask them to do tasks they don't want to do. So, like, you being like, oh, I built this house is like, yeah, like you saying that's your purpose as a man, so then why the fuck are you throwing it at me when I want you to schedule a doctor's appointment? Like, that would be infuriating to me.
Because we all have our role. Like, we're all doing things is what I'm saying.
But when you were building the house, you didn't say ahead of time, hey, listen, I still want you to do X, Y, and Z. You just assumed she'd fill those roles. That's irritating because she thought you like.
It was irritating that I was working 80 hours a week while she sat up in the fucking space watching TV or whatever.
And then
you know what I
men
mean?
do things they don't want to do, and then they throw it in your face when you ask them to do shit. Like, if you didn't want to do it, we should have fought about it then. That's how I feel about the naps. Like,
Because now I'm sitting on my ass happily.
we should have fought about it then. Like, I think as women too, like, as a woman,
Yes.
part of the reason why I don't feel comfortable being financially taken care of by a man on a full-time basis is I don't believe a single man doesn't resent you for it.
That, I've never heard it happen.
I've never met a single man who, in their honest hearts of hearts, don't resent you for taking care of their children.
And they
like
have millions.
of not paying money, even if they have millions. They resent you for it. They use it whenever they want to. And I just feel like I feel like doing something and then being like, I need you to fill in the gaps of what my worth is a trap. Like to be like, me doing all this work in the house equates to doctor's appointments without any conversation about it.
And a lot of men do see child labor as less than whatever
They
it
do.
is they're doing.
100%.
Which it's not.
Resentment's the wrong word, though. Because resentment implies that we walk around, like, feeling some type of way.
But I don't think y'all need to check in with yourselves.
I think of resentment as
maybe not you, Gabe,
you do things without boundaries,
Yeah.
and then you get mad that you didn't hold a boundary, and you get mad at the other person. That's what I think of resentment as. So I don't even think of it as like you all the time being like "fuck you." I think of it. I think of it as like. You know what I honestly think? I think men don't even think about being the provider until they're being asked to do some shit they think is small or less than. 100%. And they're like, why is she on my ass? I do everything. 100%. And then that's when those thoughts come up. And I wish that those thoughts would come up in times where there's not conflict, because I think couples could have more productive conversations.
Yes. And I think it has more, like, I have a mom who's like that, who would, like, do everything and everything like that. And
don't you?
Exactly. And it's so it's more men, because more men have more financial power in general, not all the time, but it's like I think it's whoever has more financial power in the relationship tends to like make these like big decisions, quote unquote, or like whatever.
Yeah.
And they think that everything else should just be like all the in-between stuff they shouldn't have to do.
And I'm actually okay with that if there's a conversation about that. And I'm not accusing the men, right? Because I think the women aren't mature enough to bring it up.
Agreed.
Because I say things to my boyfriend like, do you think you have to clean less because you make more money than me? And like, if so, what does that look like and what does that mean?
And most people would never say that.
And he's like, what? And then like a year into our relationship, it finally comes out like, yeah, that is part of your thought process, is like, I'm providing this higher quality of life. And then we have a conversation about like, we're not like married though. So like, yes, you're like in this apartment right now that's like a little nicer than what I would have been in theory. That's not even true because I'm
Right.
okay with having a roommate, right? Like I loved
And you had a
living
nice
with my
place.
friends, right? And I had a really great place.
You did.
But in theory, right, like you're providing this better thing. So then I got to have the honest conversation of like, I would buy into that if we were married and I was going to inherit that money. But since I'm not going to inherit that money, like I don't feel okay with that. Like how do we talk about like splitting shit up?
If nobody else takes anything from what Javae
But
saying,
most
you have
women
to talk about it.
But most women would be like, you don't think I'm valuable enough because I exist? I'll get another man to
Yes.
buy me this. I don't have to bring anything to the table. I am the table.
And they
Right?
go
So
about it in
women
this
have
dirty way.
like shit about it too.
Yes.
But I'm just saying like I think conversations need to be had if that's what's happening. And I think a lot of couples are just in their mind being like telling all the things they did for the other person and then saying like this should be enough for me to get what I'm asking for in this relationship without ever talking about it.
And I think they're measuring up what they're supposed to do to like whatever like society tells them what like they're supposed to do. Like
Yeah.
you can customize your relationship. It's like you don't have to. You can literally talk everything down to the most minute detail, and you
Right.
should.
I think the truth is, at the end of the day, is no people, as the Stanford Prison experiments prove,
Yeah.
we can't handle any
Power.
If you have any power over the other person, financial leverage, baby leverage, whatever it
agree.
is, we abuse it.
But it was
I
also
agree.
all men. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that women. I believe that women would do it in a different way, and it would be as like all the things.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that it was all men and it's all white men. I don't know. I just think that's like I would love to see it just replicated in different ways.
Yeah,
and
it'd
see
be a
what
lot worse if it
happens.
was women, actually. But yes,
They would
I
probably
don't
be
agree with
nasty.
that.
more vicious. way
I don't
more
agree with
vicious.
that.
I don't agree.
I think it'd be equal, but that's my opinion.
You have the next one.
All right, I'm going to do the next one, and we're not going to do the third one because we've been going forever, and we have other things to talk about. But so I'm going to do this second one. It'll be our last one.
Okay.
Okay. So this one is about therapy abuse. That's the subreddit. Is it okay for a psychiatrist to ask if you're a virgin in early sessions? Genuine question. I was around 25 when this happened, but it felt really awkward and irrelevant / off topic at the time. I honestly felt dissected and judged. I'm a female, and so was the shrink. I dropped her after a few sessions unrelated to this, but this got stuck with me. Does anyone else experience something similar? So their therapist asked them if they were a virgin, and it was a woman.
Psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist asked them if they were a virgin. It was a woman.
I think either way, that shit is weird.
Do you think so?
I ask about in an introductory session. That's what they said in an
Early sessions.
In intakes. The most sexual thing that I ask is like sexual identity, gender identity, their relationship to sex, things like that. If there's a partner, I talk about like what is their sex life like. But I would never ask if somebody.
How about on the third visit?
I mean, if they're talking about sex, and I might ask, well, have you had sex before? Like if that was a thing. But I'm not going to ask if they're like a.
So it's really interesting. So the psychiatrist on inpatient asked if people are sexually active, the kids.
Yeah.
Because they are doing, if you are sexually active, like it's recommended that we do a STD screen.
That's normal. Oh, I guess that's the same question. But this is so like.
So, like, it's really hard without the context of where the question came up. I also, this is
Yeah.
really judgy. This isn't therapist me. This is human me, like
Yeah.
just in the world day to day.
Yeah.
Do you have to be a virgin or highly religious to be offended by that question?
Do you?
That's what I've been thinking this whole time back here. I'm like, what kind of prude gets even offended by that?
Like, if you're offended by the question of being a virgin, like, I feel like you either have to be highly religious, have some shit about sex,
yeah.
and all that. And if the psychiatrist said the word virgin, that's creepy.
That's my thing.
But I don't think they did.
Exactly.
I don't think they did.
This is like a colloquial.
Are we
word.
not going to talk about personal shit here in the therapy
well,
appointment?
so psychiatrists, like, they're doing an intake basically, and they have 3 sessions. I don't know if they have 3 sessions. Therapists have 3 sessions to do the intake. I don't know if psychiatrists do. They might have one like 90-minute session. I don't know. But in the intake, there is questions about sexual activity because it impacts your like clinical presentation, right? So if you're sexually active and you're having certain symptoms, like they would want you to get tested for STDs. And symptoms, I don't mean like your STDs are causing those symptoms, but like let's say you have like a manic episode and like you're really sexually promiscuous during that episode, they would be like, get an STD. test. You know, if you're talking about, you know, meeting up with like some random older guys, which happens more than you would think, like
has to
on
do with
psych
your-
units, then they would ask about like sexual activity. Like there's a lot of safety reasons to ask about sexual activity.
For her to frame it like this made me be like, well, yeah, it's weird if your therapist goes, are you a virgin? But to ask about sexual activity and sex is very normal.
Very normal.
Very normal.
So it's really hard to gauge.
How old? I don't know this answer. Is there a age limit for when people can ask kind of sexual questions with minors?
No, there's not an age limit, but there is like if you're under a certain age, like we have to disclose what you share.
Yeah.
So like if you share something,
Is it under 16?
yeah, that sounds about right.
I got asked, this is kind of fun. So I did a drug like outpatient thing. This is a long time ago. And it was back in my heroin days. And when I did heroin,
sweet voice.
I would also
Back in my
do
heroin
meth
days.
or coke or like whichever one I could find to wake up because I'm so tired from the heroin and so sleepy. And
EB baby.
the therapist, this just made me think of this, that like she asked me and it took me off guard. Didn't offend me at all. I was amused by it. But she said, can I ask you a really weird question? She goes, do you have sex with men at all because of the meth use? And I just like laughed because I'd never heard of that. Like, and I go, no, what the fuck are you talking about? Then she explained where it was coming from. But she was asking it was a curiosity. It really was not.
Clinically relevant.
No, that's
Right,
weird.
right.
That's
She
right.
could sense that I'm cool with that, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
like
I don't know. So there's this thing too. Like I work with teens, right? So it's interesting because like all I have to do with a teenager is to like drop a cuss word and like
And you're cool.
Hell, I
you're
do
in.
that. Yeah.
right.
Me
So
with a 17-year-old, I said fuck once and she was bought in.
yeah, so like there is, I think as a therapist, when you're trying to build rapport with adults, there is like pushing boundaries and pushing
Yes.
whatever to kind of like demonstrate like I'm not clinical and professional in a weird way. But I think like asking if you're a virgin is a weird, creepy question. And part of me is writing them off and being like, are you like really religious or a virgin? And that's why you put it in those terms.
Right.
Because like
It's also
asking if you're sexually active feels totally different than asking if you're a virgin.
inappropriate.
Because asking if you're sexually active is like, is there anything clinically relevant I need to know about your sex life versus have you ever had sex? Sexually active doesn't mean you've never had sex. It means that you're not having sex right now and we don't need to talk about it.
And actually, I could imagine asking, "Are you sexually active with men or women?" Like, I can imagine, in some instances, that actually would be clinically
When
relevant.
sometimes when
Relevant.
teens are like venting to me about their dating life and their parent, if they're specifically venting about, hey, my parents don't like who I date or don't like what I'm doing, I always say
Yes.
to them, do you like boys, girls, or both?
Yes.
And they're like, you know, they say the answer. But it's so interesting because even saying boys, girls, or both instead of using like straight,
Yeah.
heterosexual, like all that shit, like boys, girls, or both just gets right to it,
Yep.
and kids are like, say the thing. And then if they say like both or the opposite or the same sex, then I'm like, do your parents know and do you think they care?
Yeah. Even with adults, I tell them, like, I don't really want to assume. So when you say, like, you know, when I have sex, I want to know who you're having sex with just so I can, like, I don't want to assume they're having straight sex or whatever it is, like, because I'm going to assume. And people actually appreciate that I don't assume.
So asking if someone is a virgin is fucking creepy, but if
Yes.
it wasn't stated like that and it was just like, hey, can I get sexual history, sexually active?
That's normal.
Because, like, also, this is specifically to women, I think, and maybe like queer men. But like, there's a lot of women and queer men who have like very negative feelings about their sexual experiences, and that plays into their clinical presentation, specifically in their relationship. And they don't think it does because it's normalized to have like these sexual encounters that feel kind of gross. And so, like,
Part of growing up.
it's not till you like kind of pick at it a bit, and I wouldn't do this in an early session, but it's not kind of till you pick at it a bit that you start to be like even asking like a boy who likes boys to be like boys, girls, or both. Like
That's a big question.
You might get some information around like I tried to be with girls. Like there's a lot of like openings for you to share as much as you want to.
Yep.
I think if any therapist wants like graphic details of your sex life, that's creepy.
Yes, unless you're talking specifically about, like, sex therapy or
Yeah.
something pertaining to, like, that's what you're in therapy for. But I
Yes.
agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I agree.
Are we at a point in the world where there are parent? You know, you said, do you like boys, girls, or both, and do your parents care? How common is it, do you think, for a straight couple to learn that their son is gay and not have, like, I'm not saying that the guy would be angry, but like, I think even I'm the biggest fag hag in town. I love gay people. I have no issue with like it, but I gotta admit, I'd have
God forbid my son suck a dick.
Yeah, like I just have a little bit of a slight disappointment,
I feel
probably,
like
as unfair as that is. I wouldn't show him.
I feel like we all have a little bit of like homophobia in us.
So when I'm asking about kiddos, right? Like, I don't actually care with what they say is true. I want to know your perception of your parents, because your perception is doing damage, even if it's not accurate. So I don't really care.
You're
you know what I'm
asking
saying?
about the relationship.
So like, if dad actually cares, but kid doesn't think he cares, it doesn't matter.
How often do you hear the kids say, like, no, like my parents wouldn't care, like they
More than half the time.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's great to hear.
With kids who are gay, with kids who are trans, different.
Yeah.
Different.
That'd be tough. Yeah.
I have to send like these virtual meeting invites with the kid's name. And sometimes it's such a struggle because the kid is like,
They have a different name than their birth name.
they're choosing to go by this name with their peers. Like, let's say they're going by Jessica, but they're really Jessie. And then with their parents, they're going by Jessie. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, what do I put? And it's like the meeting link I'm going to send everyone.
What do you do?
I write family therapy, and then I write in my notes to myself on a piece of paper who the session is for. I just put it all together.
Yeah.
But I was hearing actually a lot of rhetoric around, like, so what I've been hearing is that like trans rights and like trans issues played a lot more into the election than people were willing to admit.
I think that I was willing to admit. I didn't realize.
Yes.
I think a lot of left people and people who are like surrounded by the queer community didn't know. Mm-hmm. Right? Like we were all like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. But it was real for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when I was starting to like research and look on Fox News and those kinds of things, the feedback was like this true fear and belief that like their kid could be like questioning who they are, and they're going to go into a therapy session or with a school counselor, and the school counselor is going to tell them they're trans, and like their kid's going to transition at school.
And they're just off to the races.
Yeah,
people, that is the...
And like reinforcing something, and like there was all this stuff going online about how like therapists are like required to like reinforce like trans identity. And I was feeling kind of frustrated when I was hearing all of that. And I get what parents are saying around like there shouldn't be anything that a kid, there's like thinking about your kid having a secret with all the adults at school that they don't have with you is fucking gross.
It's
like
horrible.
Thinking about your thinking about your kid having all the teachers and everybody at school knowing things about your kid that you don't know is sickening. Like
and
that part I
about
get.
your parenting.
Yes. Yeah. That part I get. I totally get that.
I 100% get that.
I totally get that. And like I think there's this like misconception that like everyone at school is pushing the trans agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is not happening.
Which is not happening.
Like if your kid goes by Jessica at school, like it's because they advocated and like they asked for it.
Yeah.
If you as a parent feel upset that they get to go by the name they asked for, then like that's
shoes, buddy.
Well, I get it. It's like that same thing of like there's a secret at school that nobody knows about, right? But I think there's a difference between your kids saying like, "Can you call me Jessica?" to like the therapist at school being like, I think you're trans because you're wondering what's going on with you, right? Because like as somebody who's been trained to work with adolescents who are struggling with gender dysphoria and gender identity, we're neither confirming nor denying. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like body neutrality, but for gender neutrality. Like it's this notion of like, this is you trying to figure out who you are as a person. And so like, I'm not going to react either way because I don't want to interfere with the process. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
We're exploring.
Where like, I don't want to interfere with the process. I'm not confirming nor denying that this is what's going on with you. I don't want to interfere. And I think a lot of parents think we're confirming.
Yes.
Like you are a girl. You are Jessica. No. Like the problem in your life is your parents.
Even with adults, we're not confirming. We're just, and you know, there's a little bit more autonomy with adults, but you're not saying like, you're just opening it up to like their own curiosities.
And this is what I tell parents too. I'm like, sometimes being called Jessica versus Jessie is a test of how much you love me, and you're failing the test. Yes. And when you dig your heels in, because kids at that age are trying to separate themselves from their parents. Mm-hmm. And so you make it a point of contention to be like, the way I can be myself fully is to be trans. Yes. And they wouldn't feel like that if you accepted them all the ways. Like they're not really trans. It will burn out at some point. Mm-hmm. And parents are fully convinced that we're like, oh, you're not sure who you are and you feel depressed, you must be trans. I'm going to call you Jessica now. I'm going to go get you a skirt. I have one in the back. I can do blowouts. Do you want to blow out? I got some mascara for you. Like, parents are totally like thinking that that's what's going on. And for me, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with being trans, but if you're trans, it'll persist if you don't get attention for it. So we're going to give like no attention and see if it persists.
Can I
Go
ask
ahead,
you
push
this
that,
on this? So I'm someone who comes, whoever's touching a coat, I don't know why, but
I don't know what's going on. I think it's my mic,
Okay,
but
yeah, I think it's yours too.
But I feel confused.
It's okay. I think just
Is it?
I think
on
it's
your
probably
phone?
your mic cable or something. Like we push it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll switch it after this, like
Okay.
after the break.
Yeah.
Well, what the fuck? Now
What the
it's
fuck?
like,
Now it's worse than it was. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
This cable is on this cable. All right.
oh, there we
Cables are
go.
crossing.
Okay.
We feel good now, right?
Yeah.
yeah. The cables were crossing. I'm like, what happened?
I have a friend who is like the stereotypical alarmist, like, that. Like, the schools
Yeah.
are trying to turn your kids gay, right?
yeah.
And I truly couldn't be more, like, annoyed and disgusted with it. And I gotta admit, when your kids start coming home from school and they start, chastising you for leaving a light on because you're killing polar bears. They start, like, all this shit, like, where you can't help but notice it happens to be a leftist kind of cause, right? Even though, of
Yeah.
course, you want to teach your kids to be,
Yeah.
to conserve and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
but you start seeing a lot of it, and I do admit, like, you start, I don't know, it crops up all over. But I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
so I have a person I know who's in crisis in their family and in the middle of a divorce. You
Yes.
might have heard something about it.
Maybe.
And it just went off the rails recently.
Okay.
And basically the older child, who's 13-ish, and expressed, like, suicidal, like,
Yeah.
didn't do anything, just said something.
This is my bread and butter.
That, quite frankly, to me, like, I think it's pretty clear it was more of like an attention thing, but you got to take it very seriously, obviously.
They're trying to get needs met. That's what I say. That
yeah.
makes people feel better because attention feels judgmental. They're
Yeah.
trying to get some needs met by saying this suicidal stuff. What's the need?
But so then when the message that came back, because that person was out of town, came back from work, a work trip, and was told that by the child that the mom and the school counselor told the person that they're suicidal probably because of their dad's parenting style.
Wow.
And I'm like, does that sound like something a counselor would say?
No, and I wouldn't trust that the mom or the kid said it. I would talk to the counselor directly.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
I also
right.
think that there are things that transpire in session and then kid and parent, leave it being like, they agreed with us.
That's
That doesn't sound like a counselor thing to say at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, would it be unethical, would you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
I would.
That's what I thought. I just wasn't.
Yeah. And I think like there's a difference between mirroring back and being like, so I'm hearing you say that like at dad's house you feel worse than saying like dad's causing you to be suicidal. Like those are
reframe,
totally
yeah.
different things, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the mirroring back is like asking questions. So here's this other thing. I think therapists sometimes fuck up on this. Not sometimes, often. When the mom is saying the dad's abusive or a problem, a lot of the therapists just believe them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do any checking.
And so, like, I think, what I would say for the dad is, like, the dad should be a part of those sessions. And, like, even if he doesn't want to be with the mom, then the dad and the kid should meet with that same therapist without the mom to have those conversations. And I think the dad should approach the therapist. I would be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
can we meet one-on-one to talk about this and see what the therapist has to say? Because I'm going to guess from what you told me about the situation, this mom's pretty manipulative. That the mom's spinning it as the therapist agreed.
And doing it all over the place. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you do in that situation when they're starting to try to poison those relationships? It's like, wow, that's scary. It's really
And it's
scary.
not starting. It's been happening.
It's been happening a long
It's
time.
definitely
Yep.
been happening. Not even with just them, but just in general. Like, parents don't pick that up out of nowhere. You either have the value that, like, parents should be aligned, or you have the value that you and the other parent are competing. Like,
Yep.
that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it
Yes.
sounds like a competition, right?
1,000%, yeah.
But I don't think that I, as a therapist who have parents who are literally abusive to those kids never say like, oh, so your parent makes you want to kill yourself. Ever. It's a lot of like reflecting back to the kid to be like, you say like you feel worse at mom's. It sounds like it's because you feel helpless. Like she doesn't listen. Like we're always focusing on like
what they're giving
you're
you.
telling me you don't like this behavior, not your parent is the devil.
Yeah, right. I mean, it seems crazy to me
That's
that,
also, like,
that any parent would vilify one against the other.
It is crazy.
Grooming behavior. Not literally, but it's very like separating. It's very gross.
It makes your kid really vulnerable, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes them act out and do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we're done, right? Enough parenting advice,
Oh my
enough
gosh, that
free
was
so
Reddit
really-
therapy. I mean, we kind of went there with it.
We did. I love it though.
Our next one is like super in depth. We'll start next week with that one.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See you in 2
guys.
weeks.
You guys are so good at it. It's hard to stop.
I know it is.